Just want to welcome you to the call, Greg. We've been friends for a long time, and you're one of the most successful people I know. And you've got genuine good advice for business people and entrepreneurs. And I know, although you don't do this officially, you have mentored people and people come to you for advice. So I wanted to have a chat with you about entrepreneurship, particularly, and I can direct people to a previous chat we've had where if they want to find out a bit more about you, but. Give us a very brief overview, Gallop, of your background and entrepreneurship, and then let's talk about anything you think is important for an entrepreneurial business owner right now in 2024 to think about as we go forward. And I look forward to hearing what you've got to say.
Yeah, hi Nick. That's very kind of you. Those kind words. I'm not quite as successful as people might think,
Very
but
modest.
it's the definition of success, isn't it?
Yes.
And the definition of success when I was a child was looking around at the people who had a better lifestyle than I did. My family did. My parents were fabulous parents, and I had a fabulous childhood. And that's because they gave us stability and they gave us their time. They were never business minded. They came from an era where the word entrepreneur, which, as you know, I just don't like that word, but the word entrepreneur was never mentioned and nobody knew what it was. And of course, as I grew up, my goal was to have a lifestyle where I didn't have to count every penny. And that doesn't mean I wanted to become a multimillionaire, because that wasn't within my realm of understanding as a child. But I looked around at people that we knew who were better off than us, who had things which nowadays seem basic. But back then, if you could get yourself a reasonably new car every 2 or 3 years and go on holiday abroad, you were doing very well. And we couldn't really afford to do a lot of that sort of stuff. And I'm not in any way being rude about my parents, because I wouldn't have had it any other way. I'd much rather have had the upbringing I had without the money than had the money and no parents around.
Yeah.
But the driver for me was always to not live a life where everything was price, cost. So to me, success, which was something I really grasped after the 2008, 2009 global financial disaster, success for me really is a quality of life that you want. And the trouble is, everybody's driven, down the road these days of, you want to be an entrepreneur because you want to have a 50-bedroom mansion and 100 million yacht and 50 Lamborghinis. But the reality of that life isn't what it appears.
Yeah.
And the value of being able to go out for lunch or dinner whenever you like to nice places, the value of driving a nice car, doesn't have to be a Lamborghini. The value of living in a nice house, doesn't have to be a 50-bedroom mansion. And anonymity, being able to go around. I mean, you look at all these wealthy celebrities and, they can't walk out the front door. They can't go and take the dog for a walk down the beach. They can't go around the shopping centres. They can't, go and stay in a nice hotel somewhere, because everywhere they go, they just get swamped by fans of, all sorts of levels, don't they? So to me, my driver wasn't to be an entrepreneur. My driver was to have a quality of life where I could have what I call a middle ground choice. So, for example, if I go to the supermarket, I buy what I want. I couldn't actually tell you what things cost. The basic things. I couldn't tell you what toilet roll cost or ketchup, or, I could tell you what a cooked chicken costs, but I couldn't tell you, because I'm not counting at that level.
Yeah.
But there again, I haven't got millions of pounds sitting in the bank either. So I'm somewhere in the middle. And for me personally, that is success.
That really offends poor people, doesn't it? Sometimes the fact that people who are wealthier can't name the price of a loaf of bread or a pint of milk, which is a sort of weird attitude, isn't it? Because you'd think that it would be something they would aspire to, but it seems to be one of the things that winds them up most.
If you want to be, I don't know, a fabulous footballer and play well, then you've got to put the time in, you've got to put the effort in. Most people aren't really bothered about achieving. I mean, the number of people I've spoken to in the last few years about what's going to happen in the world with the world economy and what's going to happen with everything, you know, as a global term. And 9 out of 10 people I talk to that I know, I'm not talking about random people I talk to on the street, but 9 out of 10 people I know are not interested. And
And
I
do you
find
think
that staggering.
yeah, do you think that's because they're scared to talk about it, or and they've got a glimmer of there's something weird is going on, or do you think it's that genuinely are not in, I mean, we're very curious people. We like to know about all sorts of stuff, don't we? Is it that people aren't curious, or is it that they don't want to know because they're scared they won't be able to cope with it?
I don't know. It's a conundrum that I've been trying to solve, and I can't. I don't think there's one answer. I think there's lots of different answers depending on the sort of person you are and your situation. I've always been interested in money, but I'm interested in money for what it can do for me. I have no interest in living in a tiny little house and having £100 million in the bank. To me,
No.
that's sacrilege. Money is there to help. Money is there to make things happen, and if you can get to the point where you've got more money than you need and you're able to put that to work to help other people, then that's a great situation to be in. And I think for the people that are in that situation, they have a much more rewarding life than people that just accumulate material stuff.
Yeah.
It's like I mean, I haven't got lots and lots of rich friends, but a couple of the friends I've got who are rich, they don't use any of their stuff. They've got 3 or 4 Ferraris sitting in the garage, and I never drive it. That's what they say, because they never get time to drive it. And it's that old adage, isn't it, of the gardener, the guy that lives in the big mansion, goes out to work every day, and he's got a fabulous garden that's tended by the full-time gardener who lives on the grounds. And who gets the pleasure of the garden? Well, the gardener does. And he's getting paid to enjoy the garden. And the owner of the garden is at work all day. So to me,
I haven't heard that one before. That's a good one.
no. So the gardener is successful, isn't he?
Yes, some would argue more so than the chap who's hiring him.
Exactly, because he's got a passion for gardening and he's being paid to look after a garden. So he doesn't have to work.
It's not work when you enjoy it. Yeah.
So you see what I mean? So
yeah.
The idea of success these days, and obviously, because I'm cracking on now, when I was, I don't know, 16, 18, 20, trying to make my way in the world. And funnily enough, I was talking to a couple of lads the other day who are friends of mine's sons who were setting up, I'm trying to make sure I don't say the wrong thing, but they were setting up a business. And I was telling them how wonderful it is for them to be setting up a business in the current market. And they said, well, why is that? And I said, well, you've got all this stuff for free. And they said, what stuff for free? I said, well, you've got Instagram, you've got YouTube, you've got Facebook, you've got Snapchat, you've got the endless list of social media things, which basically are free to market your business. When I set up in business, how you marketed your business was you put an ad in the paper.
Which cost a fortune and you had no idea if it was going to work.
Yeah. And then you didn't know if anyone was even going to read it. You would go for radio advertising if you had some money, or you would be in some way leafleting, cold calling, knocking on doors, making phone calls, because there wasn't the medium of communication that there are now. But now you can put something on, I don't know, Instagram, and you can see how many people have viewed it, how many people are following it, how many people are liking it. So you've got all of the feedback from your potential customers telling you what they like, what they don't like, what they want, what they don't want, which is mind-blowing compared to when I started a business. I mean, if we wound the clock back and I was, 25 now, launching a business, I could just make it fly really fast, really cheap, because everybody's telling me what I'm doing right and everybody's telling me what I'm doing wrong.
Yes. The most difficult bit is when you get a deafening silence and you have to try and figure out why. But you just keep trying things till something works, don't you?
Yeah, but we had a lot of deafening silences.
If I'm not taking you too far off track,
right.
Tell me a little bit about, you mentioned when you were younger. So briefly, what did you do to know that you knew you wanted to earn money? What did you know how to go about it straight out of the gate?
No.
Did you go to college or talk to someone, or what did you do?
No, I worked for a bank when I left school, just in
That
the
always
lowest of the
surprises
low.
me. That
Yeah,
always
it was just to get a
surprises
job. It was just to get a job. Get out of school at 16, get a job, get some money coming in. And I had no idea, literally no idea what I was doing, no idea where I was going. Some may say I was a little bit gobby and overconfident.
me.
Well, quite a lot of people actually. I looked around at all the people in the bank and thought, if I stay here for too long, I'm going to end up like this lot.
Yeah.
So I then left the bank and went to work for, I mean, you're talking about the lowest level of office job possible. So when people say I work for a bank, I work for a bank, it was the lowest level of office admin. It was nothing at all. The fact that I was working for a bank is irrelevant. Then I went to work for another company doing admin again. But this company made flight simulators. And one of the subcontractors there, who I sort of got on with quite well, who was like a designer, like what you'd call, I can't think what they're called now, but back in the day, it was like a graphic designer type thing.
Yeah.
Because it was all hand drawings back then. There was no computers. Everything was drawn on a drawing pad with, we had to measure it all out to scale, etc. And he said to me one day, he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm just here because I'm just trying to bring in a bit of money, but I'm really looking for something else." And he said to me, "You should go into sales." And I said, "What's that?" And I had no idea that there was a section of the business world that was sales. And I'd no comprehension of the business world or how business worked or banking or anything, which is part of what I want to come to in a little while. So I looked in the paper, because again, there's no internet, and I saw this advert, and it said, mortgage brokers required.
Gobby overconfident bloke needed.
Yeah, gobby overconfident bloke needed. And it said, mortgage broker needed. And so I thought, well, I'll give him a ring. So I gave him a ring. I went to see him. And of course, I had all the attributes he needed in a mortgage broker, which was somebody who was good with numbers and understood, and somebody who had an outgoing personality and would go and see people. Yes. And what I discovered then is I had without blowing my own trumpet, I had a skill of explaining things to people. So I could sit down with somebody and explain something that they think is complicated and break it down to make them realise how simple it really is, you see.
Did you know anything about mortgages, or did he train you?
No, I had to go on training courses and become what was then licensed. It was like your license now, but it wasn't like it is now. It was much easier to become licensed then because everything wasn't regulation heavy.
And did you get a basic plus commission or
no?
Or
just commission. No, just commission.
It was all commission. Wow, that was
it was all commission. Yeah.
What made you think? What made you so confident that you could make a decent living doing that?
Well, it never occurred to me that it wouldn't work. You see, because I was at that stage. I was at that age where, oh yeah, this will be fine. Because when you're at that age, everything's going to be fine, isn't it? You don't need to worry about it. Which is why youngsters do stupid things, don't we? I don't need a seatbelt, stuff like that.
Oh God, I was quite an anxious teen. I because of everything that had happened in my life so far, lots of things have gone wrong already. So I wasn't quite as confident as you, but I did have my moments.
I was too far the other way.
Yeah. Whenever I went to recruitment consultants and people like that, they always tried to get me into sales. So I obviously gave off a confident demeanor, but I always hated the idea of sales. Did you not have any negative connotations in your head about sales at all?
As far as I was concerned, this was an amazing adventure.
Yeah.
And I'd broken free from working for a company, and it was down to me now. I could earn as much money as I wanted to. Obviously, the fact that that's not true eluded me at the start of that stage, but I had the opportunity to earn more money than, I could earn from selling one mortgage as much as I was earning in 2 weeks at the previous job.
Nice.
So
there was a big incentive. Tell me how you went about building. Did this chap give you sales training and techniques and practicalities or anything like that? Or did you go about putting it all together yourself?
No, I just went out and saw people and learned as I went. And then I sold other products. And then I met a guy who wanted to set up a business with me. I'll give you this quick explanation. And we set up a business together because we looked at it that the industry we were going into, there was so many idiots in it making money that if we, we were a couple of idiots, so we might as well do it as well. And at the time, we were in that industry, which was the window business. Yeah. He was an installer and I was a salesman for a window company because I'd gone on from being a mortgage broker to being a mortgage broker and a pension advisor and everything for a bigger company. And it just wasn't exciting enough. And then I just got into direct sales where you're going into people's houses and selling them stuff, home improvements and things. Me and this guy became good friends. I did a mortgage for him and for his house. And we set up. But again, no clue, no idea what we were doing, no understanding. I mean, literally none.
Terrifying looking back, isn't it?
Well, it is and it isn't. But the thing is what fascinates me nowadays is the resources that are available for people on literally every subject under the sun. So if you wanted to, we had no resources at all. So nowadays, if you wanted to learn bookkeeping, you could do it off an app on your phone. You can learn it off YouTube. You can sign up for some ridiculously small amount of money and have an online accounting process, which does it for you. There wasn't any of this, so we were working out banking and profit and loss and on pieces of paper.
Nobody mentioned the library to you then.
Well, reading books, that's sacrilege, isn't it? Reading books. God, I don't do that.
Men and instructions, they don't like them at all.
Well, it's failure, isn't it? It's admitting failure.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to look at the instructions now. Well, hang on a second. Before we do that, is there any other way around this? We can avoid looking at them.
It's so true.
So I went and that was when we started our business and, we're still friends to this day. But the bit I wanted to put across to you, part of what I wanted to put across to you today, is anybody that wants to become, and I'll use that word one more time because I dislike it, an entrepreneur. Anybody that wants to be a business owner.
Let's call them business owners. Let's call them
business owner and make money, because let's be honest, that's what it's all about. What they've got to do is they've got to educate themselves. They've got to step back from what it is they're doing and look at the much bigger picture and give themselves a reasonable level of knowledge in many, many areas of how the world economy works, how interest rates work, money printing, what the bond market is, what the stock market is, how all this stuff works, how pensions work, how life insurance works, how car insurance works, how the process of buying a car or finance works, leasing something, how taking commercial premises, what's the implications, how does it work, what are the mechanics of it, and educate themselves on a wide variety of topics. You don't have to be an expert. You don't need to know the granular detail about every single thing. But if you understand the fundamentals of all these different things, you can make much better business decisions and you can make much better decisions for the longer term. So let me give you an example of what I mean. Right now, the last thing I would do would be to take a lease on a commercial premises.
Yeah.
Because I know commercial property is going to take a dive.
It's falling off.
It's just... So in the coming years, you're going to be able to pick up commercial property without tying yourself into a long lease and for a fraction of what it costs now. Now, if you are just running your business and you've got your head buried in that business and you're not looking at anything else that's going on in the world or the economy, the chances are you're going to think to yourself, well, if I get these premises and I take a 25-year lease or a 10-year lease or a 5-year lease or a 15-year lease, that secures my business and I've got somewhere to work from. But the reality of it is you're actually putting a nail in the coffin of your business because you're committing yourself to propping that sector of the business world up with money that you can't afford to pay. And, so it's knowing what's going on in the world and having a wider overview of everything else. Not that I've got some magical knowledge of everything that's going on in the world, But having an overview of what's going on, trending in different markets and what's happening makes a massive difference. And if I'd have done that from 2000 through to 2008, I'd
Yes.
have been in a completely different situation come the crash.
I was saying to Andy the other day when I was talking to him, we were, it's what we didn't know is just astonishing. And it's the same now, isn't it? There's so much going on in the world that people do have no clue about what's happening. And for watching a few videos on YouTube, they could swiftly bring themselves up to speed and make, like as you say, much better business decisions.
I'm trying to think of something, anything anyway, but just to do with business, that there's not an endless supply of information and data on the internet, on YouTube, on endless streaming platforms,
You could learn how to do
membership sites.
anything on YouTube, can't you? One of my clients made thousands of pounds from making a video about how to iron a shirt properly. Well, I'm not kidding. It's unreal. And every time I need to do any DIY in the house now, I just go straight to YouTube and look it up. And I'm about to replace a MacBook computer screen because I my oh, it's a long story, but anyway, I need to get this fixed. And you can actually learn how to do it on YouTube. They tell you
Mm,
what kit you need, and for
yeah,
£27, I'm replacing a computer screen.
yeah.
Madness.
It is madness. And the bit that frustrates me is that people, you know, normally it's the younger people
Yes.
go
Yeah.
careering at 100 miles an hour into a business,
Yeah.
ignoring all of the resources that are around them. You know, it's that old adage, isn't it? You know, the shortcut is a long way in disguise,
Yes.
and it's so true. And I look at the things we did, it's endless little one-line gifts like
Stay tuned for part 2, coming soon on the channel.